What is up, guys? ReviewTIJ and welcome to a new video. This is a F1 2014 game ideas video, first one, and this is just about career mode today. And I'm going to get straight into it. No need to do an intro, and we're going to get straight into it. So one main idea that's really small is a formation lap. Now you could turn this, my plans would be you could turn this on or off, and I am aware that everybody that plays the game aren't hardcore Formula 1 fans. I totally understand that, but I am a hardcore Formula 1 fan. I'd love to see something really small like that, just to add a little bit more of realism to the game. I mean, there's not much more I can say about it. You know, it's a formation lap. Warm up your tyres. You know, the engineers constantly onto you. You know, weave, get the temperature in the tyres, and I think it just affects your start a little bit more because, as you know, on the last 4 Codemasters games, the start's been a little bit too easy, to be quite honest. You know, your tyres are warm, and you know you just speed past the AI, so that could be something that would slow down your start perhaps a little bit. And then a really small thing also is a podium animation. You know, you get a park thermo animation, but I'd love to see something like a podium animation. You know, something to feel like you've really achieved something. You know, if you win your first race, you get a podium animation. You know, the spraying the champagne or something. You know, you're playing the game and you feel really proud of what you've done. Or even when you get a second or a third, just holding up the trophy. I believe it just really be a really small feature that people would enjoy, and I think it'd look really good in the game. Now we're gonna an idea I don't think anybody else has had is actually having a trial for a team. Now, I believe the only F1 game that's included this is Formula 1 Championship Edition for the PS3. And basically, when you actually start the game, you get trials from 3 teams, and I believe they're Toro Rosso, Super Aguri, and MF1. And basically, you go to a track, and it's either you do 1 lap time or a few consecutive lap times. And if you get a lap time in a specific mark, like say if it was a 1:19.7, you got a 1:19, you'd pass, and they might accept you as a test driver, a second driver, or first driver. And I believe that if you did that, you wouldn't be handed a place on a plate, because to be quite honest, especially this year, I mean, they've handed you a place at Lotus where you can easily win races this year, which I think is quite a bit pathetic, to be quite honest. It's a bit childish. So I think you ought to have trials for teams, and that could be the replacement to the young drivers test, because I think that's getting a bit stale now, and it's just a bit frustrating, you know, for half an hour at the start of the game, and for God's sake, I've got to do the young drivers test. But definitely trials for teams is something I'd love to see. And I mean, I think another good idea that I think Alex Afro said the other day is that you could only join Caterham or Marussia at the start of your career, because let's be honest, unless you're really well known, you're not going to get anywhere else unless you've got money than Sauber and all that. So I definitely think that trials for teams, and I think that's it for that. And I think a really small idea that could be good is having an actual newspaper like the Sun for the headlines. You know, like an actual graphic when you come into the menu that's got like the Sun on it, and then it's obviously got the headlines on it. So it'd be really good, that would actually, I believe. And also, another big thing that I believe should be implemented in the game is that you fight for your seat every year. You know, the fact that you need to fight for your seat every year. You know, you don't just get a contract, you know, just because you haven't done very well this season, you know, oh, we'll give you another try. You know, you've got to fight for your seat. If you don't get the results, you get booted out. And if you can't find another team, I'm afraid that's your Formula 1 career over. Just makes it a lot more realistic. And I think that's done about that. But now let's get on to the really big one, which is what people have called Live the Life. Now, this was pretty much taken out of the game in 2012. Don't ask me why, because I thought it was really good especially 2010. In 2011 it was. And I've had a few different ideas about how you can live the life. Obviously, interviews, you know, the interview basis needs to be a bit more complex, because I didn't believe that it was very complex in 2010 and 2011, but I think that definitely you can have interviews, you know, the BBC and Sky, David Croft and the BBC. Definitely as well, you could have relationships with drivers. So like if you really wanted to, like after the race, I don't know, you could go and say to Lewis Hamilton, you know, well done on winning the race, mate. Or you can go and you can go and have an argument with a Toro Rosso driver about, you know, an incident that was caused, because I think that'd be really good, and linking that to the Sun for the headlines. Because if you say something about another driver in an interview, you know, that will go in the Sun, and then it'll be all, yeah. And then there'll also be a relationship with the team. I'd like to see that, like your teammate and the engineers and all your team, because then your team will be like, all right, mate, like you'd have a relationship with your team, so you'd feel one of them, really. And I think you could also talk to your engineer about your car. I know in MotoGP 13 they do this, and it's called a technical meeting. And basically, if you don't feel comfortable with your car, you can just go and talk to your engineer about the car and how it feels and how you can change that. And also, I believe that you should have press conferences. It's sort of the same like the interviews, but I'd like to have, like the pre-weekend press conference. I can't even say it. Pre-weekend press conferences like they do in real life, because I think you get the real buzz for a Formula 1 weekend, and I think it'd be really good. And you could watch you could have, say, if you were at Force India, you could have VJ Malia in the team principals one, and he said something bad about you, and you go and have a word with him, and you say that, it's a bit unfair. Now, I understand that these ideas are just basically for simulation reasons. I'd love to see them in the game, but let's be realistic, lads. I don't think they would be in the game. But I'd love to see those, because it's really a live-the-life situation. And in the last 2 games, I just felt like, well, you just go in a menu and you race. You have no relationship with everyone. They're just artificial intelligence, and you do nothing. So, and our last point is obviously linking to the interview basis. And if you say something bad about your teammates in the press, you get a warning off your team, or you get a race ban. And that's another point I want to go into. Like Roman Grosjean, if you cause a really bad crash in a race, you have a possibility of getting a race ban, or a grid penalty for the next race. And I think that'll just implement the rules a little bit more. And definitely, yeah, I think having a race ban will be so good, because it'd be quite funny actually. If you've caused a really bad incident in that race, you get a race ban for it. And definitely, saying something about your teammate in the press with the interviews, I think you ought to get a warning, or even, just a bad telling off for the. Because, say David Croft says about you, your teammates with Jules Bianchi, and said, how's your team, how's your relationship with Bianchi, and you say, I hate him, your team could have a go at you. But I think that's pretty much it, lads. I haven't got much more to talk about. It's actually gone a lot longer than I expected it to. So make sure, if you've got any more ideas, leave it down in the comments. I'm going to actually send this to Luke Spring, but I really doubt it'll be read. But I'm going to send it to Luke Spring anyway. What's wrong with that? It's been pretty short. It's been about 7 minutes. But lads, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and if you haven't done already, please subscribe. Make sure to leave your views in the comments, and I'll